Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Lighthouse Torah Project from Miami. My name is Avraham Shira. I'm broadcasting from Eretz Israel, and welcome. I'm glad to see all of you. Got a pretty exciting class tonight, and hopefully, meditation will be on par with the information that some of the greatest Kabbalists of all time have taught us over the years. And what we try to do is to take these teachings and bring them down into words that we can grasp and understand and appreciate and expand our consciousness with. So tonight we're talking about the letters of creation and how they are garments for the infinite. Now, I find this a very useful exercise. It might be a bit a stretch, but imagine if you were an infinite God, what you would do if you wanted to create a world. You're infinite. That means you have no boundaries. You have no rules except the rules that you make. You have no tools except the tools you make. You might have a goal in mind, like we all do when we create something. You want to build a house, you need a plan. You want to start a business, you need a plan. So the beginning of several of the Arizal's books teach us that what God first wanted was something good to give his goodness to. And he came up with the idea of man. Isn't that funny? So, because God is infinite good, and he wanted to give over some of that goodness to a creation that it could appreciate it, and of course, a creation that he could relate to and have a relationship with. And the human race was the optimal choice. And everything else that's built around the universe is in order to give us free choice in that system. Okay, but still, our question is, how does an infinite being start to make himself less infinite in order that something not as awesome and as boundless as he is can exist? So he had to make tools to create creation. And the tools he created, we're told over and over by the sages throughout the generations, that are the Aleph Bet, the letters of the Aleph Bet. When I first heard this, I said, what? The letters of the Aleph Bet are letters. It's a speech system. You have phonetics, you have vowels, you have letters and shapes. And then after a while, they teach you the numbers of those letters, that each has a number, gematria. But how did that create all of this? A multi-billion galaxy universe with uncountable stars and distances, et cetera, et cetera. How does that all happen with letters? So what we start to understand is that letters are not simply a normal language system like learning Spanish or learning French or learning English. That the Hebrew letters are primordial vibrational sounds. They are, if you think of them as perhaps as the original consonants. As I'm speaking to you, I'm using vowels and consonants. It's automatic because we've done it for so long. But there is an original structure of consonants and vowels that corresponds to a higher order of purpose and goal. And we are taught and we accept, when you learn more about Hebrew, you see how miraculous this language is, that no human being could have created such an integrated system of storing knowledge. Because bottom line is, language is created in order to communicate and to store knowledge. And then, of course, the point of storing knowledge is that we share it through communication. And then communication leads us to fulfill ourselves as human beings and our purpose. And then we will justify God's creating us by fulfilling his purpose for us. Now that sounds a bit like God-centric, How would you feel if your father said, I created you in order that you should take over my business? I'm sure that's been thrown out a few times, right? And the son is like, well, thanks, Dad. I appreciate taking over IBM for you, but don't you just love me for who I am? Because that's really what every human being wants, is just to be loved for who we are, not to be the predecessor or the guy who takes over Dad's business. Okay, but in this case, the point of creation is that we give God a place to give to. Okay, and so when we recognize that amount of generosity, we naturally should want to give back. And he says, okay, I'm going to let you give back through the Torah, through the various good deeds that we do throughout all the mitzvot of the Torah. And everyday life is full of good deeds that you can give them the label mitzvah if you want. But people are doing good deeds all the time. Okay, but let's go back to the tools that God is creating letters. Now, the Zohar teaches in the introduction that when God wanted to create, he started with a sofer, or a scribe. He took a pen, he put ink on his quill, right? And he started with a dot, because that's the first form you ever make when you set a pen or a pencil on paper. That first dot became the letter Yud. So the first letter created was the letter Yud, the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Yud is short for the word Yad, or it's another way of spelling the word Yad, hand. But in Kabbalah, the Yud stands for wisdom, which really, in our modern linguistic understanding, it really means the program of a thing. The brain or the mind power of a thing is its program to do what it's designed to do. So the Yud represents that. We talked about that in last week's meditation. Perhaps some of you were there. You remember we spelled out God's name, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, according to the human body. The head is the Yud, the upper torso, the shoulders is the Hey, the spinal column is the Vav, and then the hips and the two legs are the final Hey. So that's just one paradigm that we use as a meditation tool to help us understand that we really are reflections. We are made in his image, and the image he gives himself is his name. All right, let's say, hi, Ira, I see you're there. Welcome. I'm not sure I saw you before. Let's say God said to you, Ira, you can make yourself look like anything you want. You could change your hair. You could change your anything. Like, where would you begin? I don't know where maybe I'd start with hair. It fell out a few years back. But really, seriously, if you think about it, how would I want to change myself? I'm so used to being who I am. What am I going to do? Change my eyes, my nose, my ears? It seems absurd. It actually is absurd when you think about it. But I guess in the world of plastic surgery, it's not so absurd. But the point is that if you had that power, that choice to change your form to any form, it becomes endless choices, and that's very hard for a human being to face, endless choices. But Hashem, God, took that on and said, I'm going to change my form into all forms. I'm going to do that by creating the Aleph Bet, and the names of things will be the form that they take. So like when we take the word Kelev for dog, it's a well-known vort, people have heard it probably, right? The word Kelev, Kaf Lamed Bet in Hebrew is Kelev, dog, but the rabbis teach it's Ka. Ka is a preposition that means like, Lamed Bet, heart, that a dog is like the heart. And of course, there's a lot of dog lovers out there. You can appreciate that. A dog is like a heart. It's totally sensitive to its master, and it forms a bond and a friendship. A friend of mine just lost his dog of 14 years, and he's bereft. It was like one of his best friends, this dog. And he didn't answer back, It doesn't make you trouble. So, like other friends. But anyways, so the word for dog represents the essence of what a dog is. And that's part of the miracle of Hebrew. That every word represents a concept, and the representation of the idea is in the letters. So it reads both ways. You can hear the name and figure out what it's talking about. And for example, the letter shin, right? That sh sound, the Sefer Yetzirah relates it to the sound of a snake, right? A rattlesnake. Shh. Sound familiar, right? Down in Florida, in Miami, you got rattlesnakes down there, I believe. At least they used to. Maybe the alligators all ate them up. I don't know. But so the letter shin is related to the sound that a snake means. It means it already tells us something about the quality of that letter. It's unstable. It's like fire. Fire also hisses. And so it's also at the end of the Aleph Bet. We learned last week that the end of the Aleph Bet are letters that represent the descent into the other side, the dark forces, etc. And the beginning letters, Aleph Bet Gimel Dalet, etc., represent the light forces, or those of creation and positivity, of holiness, and so on. So we understand the character of the letters, then we start to combine them, and then we automatically see that the combinations of letters, which are called words, which in Hebrew is a teva. So a word is a teva, which literally means an ark. Now, we think of Noah's ark. That's a very big ark, a very big teva. But a teva can also be like a little wooden box that you keep things in. And that's why words are called tevot, because they hold things like a little box. So letters, when we join them together to create a concept, as we talked about last week, Aleph and Bet makes the concept of, or father. And then we have Shin Bet Taf creates a concept called sitting or resting, which is Shabbat. So we're bringing ideas together through joining the letters, and that's what a box does. You put all these different things in a box, and it's really an information storage system. That's what language does. It stores information in sounds. If you think about it, right? You say sound, you say words that have meaning, and you communicate yourself, and then people hear you and they understand you, and the information passes along. So it's really a miracle, language itself. And on a big scale, remember this, write it down. The creation itself, the metaphor of creation is the creation of speech. That the way God metaphorically creates the world is the same way that our bodies and mouths and the organs of speech create sound. And that it's quite it's more than one lecture, for sure, because it has to do with the whole structure of this tree of life. It has to do with the production of sound, which of course our lips and mouth and tongue are doing, etc. Our teeth are, etc. And then it has to do with the passage of air, the vibrations of sounds. It's very complex, the actual production of speech. But that production of speech is a metaphor for the creation of man and all of creation, and especially women. Because women were actually the last thing created. And that's why they're the highest thing, because Sof Ma'aseh b'machshava techila, we say that the last deed was first in thought, and God wanted to create something that could create like he does. Of course, that's a woman, because she can create life. Man contributes to the process, obviously, but it's really up to the woman that this species continues. That's why, by the way, Judaism is so strict about male-female relations, because if you mess with the human family, you mess with the potential for continuity and re-peopling the human race. The human family is the structure that gives stability to all of us. And the family, without the family, things fall apart, as we all know. And that depends on the solidity, the loyalty, the strength of a woman. And men, well, we know men. Those of you who know what I'm talking about. That there's the male energy is the chaotic energy. The female energy is the orderly, structured energy. And the two have to join together, and then we have life. Okay, that has to do also with so I don't want to get too far afield here, but so we've talked about the creation of letters. It's a dot, every pen, and then the minute you move your pencil or pen, you have a straight line, And then you curve the pen or pencil, and you have three primordial shapes for creating letters: a point, a line, and a curve. And all three of those are in all letters of all languages. So it's like a coded system of forming these letters that have assigned sounds. Okay, I don't want to beleaguer this too much, but after God created the letters, then we are told by the Sefer HaMalbush, which is a sefer by one of the Arizal students, Rav Tzemach, that he put his infinite light in the letters. That it wasn't enough just to give shape and names to the letters and numbers to the letters, but actual vibrational life force. Okay, and the Arizal talks about the whole creation in a very nice metaphor that it will help us understand what does it mean when you put infinite light into a letter and the letter becomes a garment for the infinite. Because the whole idea of something that's infinite has no garment. It cannot be bound by a coat or a jumpsuit or a pair of sneakers, right? Infinite means nothing holds it. And so, but the letters became a garment, just like you put on your clothes in the morning, etc. It's your garment. You're known by your clothes. So too God puts on clothes, but the clothes he puts on are these letters. And so the Arizal tells us a very nice thing. He says that creation is like a glass blower. The glass blower takes molten glass and he puts it on a tube and he blows out through the tube and he creates things accordingly. So too creation. That the raw material of creation is the glass, and God's breath is blown through the tube and it expands the glass into various innumerable shapes. And so God is literally blowing life force into creation. That's why it says when in the Torah, that God blew into Adam's nose a living spirit. Okay, so that's, now you say, okay, Adam, I understand he got a living spirit, but these are just letters. No, they're not just letters. They're just different than Adam, but they're still alive. Now, this is something that you experience in meditation at a certain point. In Kabbalistic meditation, there is a point where you have to let go of your very attempt to meditate. Now, what does that mean? I'm sitting here. We're going to sit tonight soon and meditate. I have to make the effort. I have to breathe, relax, focus, project my inner eye, et cetera, each person according to his level. Now, what does it mean that I have to give up exactly what I'm doing? What I mean is this, that once you gain the ability to see these letters we're talking about in your mind's eye, you become closer to God because you become a creator. You can create words in your mind. But what the Rav is telling us is that these letters are garments for the infinite means that they're alive. They're not static forms on a page. They're living vibrations, and especially when they're arranged in the letters and spelling and shapes of God's names, then they're very specific vibrational energies that corresponding to the different sphirot and the different actions of creation. See, if you look at God's names, you'll see that each one actually depicts an action. When we call God master, it's like he's the boss, he's the head of the farm, right? That's Adonai. When we call God a judge, we call him Elohim. It's another name for God. When we call him a creator, we don't say that name out loud, Yod Hey Vav Hey, right? That name itself means an emanator. And then and Shaddai means the limitator, that which gives limitation to power. The name El means the Almighty, above everything. Each name signifies a certain posture in God's personality or his relationship to us. So as we learn more about these names, you start to see that Hashem has a personality. And that can be mind-blowing too, if you think about it. And it can also be exaggerated to horrible proportions, which is something that Christianity has done with their idea of how God came into man. And they take it way past anything that looks like Judaism, because they make a man into God, which is one of the 613 mitzvot of the Rambam. Is that it's forbidden for man to make himself into a god. Like Pharaoh wanted his people to believe that he was a god. That's why he wouldn't go to the bathroom in front of anybody. They wanted to think he was above that kind of thing. So that absurd example is only to teach us that there is this part of us that wants to be God. And it's not from the side of holiness. However, and this is part of the tikkun in the garden, well, guess what? We are part of God already. So we don't have to try to be something we already are. What we have to do is learn how to be it the best way we can within our own limitations. Okay, so Rav Tzemach is telling us there's a garment to God, the infinite, and it's called the letters. Now we take these letters and we can shape them into little boxes, little collections of information that give over ideas to us. And then those boxes, those collections of words become sentences, which can become complete thoughts and concepts. And, well, you can change the world with words, literally, as many people have done in the past for good or evil. Okay. So when we understand the letters this way and we treat them with this understanding, then we're going to have much more respect for them. And what the Rav writes, Rabbi Chaim Vital writes in Shari Kedusha, in the 4th section, he says like this amazing thing: the purer your mind, the more the letters will shine. That actually rhymes. He didn't say it that in English, but the purer your mind, the less stuff in your psychic filter, the more the letters will shine back to you. And so when we understand that, then all these other things we've been talking about tonight are also going to fall into place and make more sense. Because when I close my eyes and I try to meditate on Yud and K, which is also a name, that's the name for wisdom, Yah. The Rastafarians picked up on that real quick. They call him Jah because they couldn't get down the Y and the Yud, so they changed it. They're like Jah, it sounds cooler, right? But really, Yud K, you say in Hebrew, Yud Hey, is the name for wisdom, which is the right brain. Each of these divine names we're just talking about actually correspond to different parts of the body as well. Now, all these co-correspondencies, don't get inundated with them, because it takes a long time to learn them all, and you will learn them as you study more and read more and practice more. But it's not, we're not here to overwhelm or to provide too much information at once. It's part of my job to know that and to practice that. But here, we're just trying to get down this idea that we are mini creators and that we are given the tools of creation just like God created them, but these very letters. Now, what we want to create, of course, we're not out to create another world. We have a world. What we want to create is garments for our higher soul. Just like we just said, those letters are garments for the infinite soul. Well, we have a spark of that in us. And I want that spark to shine through me. So I need garments to do that. And that's one of the high levels of we meditate and learn Torah, because the Torah itself is the depository. All the letters are the depository for this infinite energy. That's why it says that the Jewish people and the Torah and God are one. Kucha B'richu, Torah v'Yisrael hadhen. They're one. What is that? Is that just a nice parallel idea? No, it's not. It really literally means that we are carrying God around inside us, and the form and structure of that living entity is the Torah itself. So these are very big ideas, and they're not easy to digest all at once. But our purpose tonight is going to be, however, to try to do some meditation on some letters. Now, what's very important to remember, of course, I'm sure many of you know, that the inner eye is not always open. That ability to see in your mind's eye is not always open. Some people never have it open. Some people are born with it open. It can be a gift. Some people have profound concentration from a very young age, and some people can never really concentrate at that level. Each person's tools and their capacity is different. So it behooves us, and it's really important for us to know ourselves. Who am I? When I close my eyes, can I see things? Can I project an image of a yud, which is just like a dot? Or is it very hard for me? Or can I project, the day I received my diploma from graduate school or something? Can I see an image when it's recalled to my thinking center? In other words, because that actual process is an amazing thing. If I say an idea to you, like graduation, it'll bring back images, but it's just a sound. But you see, the sound, when it hits the mind, it springs an image. And I could say an image to you, a cold lake. That's just an image. But for you, that idea of a cold lake might spring an image when I remember flipping over a sailboat in a cold lake. So that brought me back into a memory like 40 years ago. So you see that there's this interaction between our senses, and that's why we began our workshop with the 5 senses as windows on the palace. The palace, of course, being the place where the divine presence dwells. So tonight we're with this. This is our 6th class, and I highly recommend going over the other ones because this is the type of information we need to recycle it a lot to really get it down, because it's easy to forget. But tonight we're beginning with the letters, and we're going to move on from there to other concepts and ideas. But it's important to see how it's all tied together. So each of you, I mean, if we were in a live classroom together, I might be more direct and ask you, can you see things in your mind's eye? And you might say yes. You might say no. You might not even know. I never tried. But most people actually do use their inner eye more than they realize. It's just that it's something that we don't actually or consciously use. And that's one of the beauties of meditation, is we consciously access powers in the soul, in the mind, that we otherwise might not. When you go, when you listen to a song on the radio, you don't consciously necessarily conjure images. It just happens for you that you'll remember the first time you heard that song in high school or something like that. It happens automatically. What we're trying to do is cause it to happen with a divine direction to it. Meaning we're going to meditate on a divine name. We're not going to meditate on your high school prom or your first car or anything like that. We're going to meditate on one of God's names because we want to draw down that power into the soul. But you understand how the interaction works. Image produces thought, thought produces image, sound produces image, image produces sounds. It works in all directions between all the senses. You could smell something and be overwhelmed by what you see, because it brings back a whole history behind that smell, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, these letters that we've been talking about as depositories, little boxes of wisdom, of understanding, we want to ask the question, what is wisdom? It's a word we all think about. We hear it once in a while, the old wise guy, usually that's more slang. But, the wise old man, sitting on the park bench. What does it mean, wisdom? Now, wisdom has many definitions. Depends on who you ask, right? Which dictionary, which sage, which source. Well, I came up with a little definition I like this evening. I thought I'd share, and you're also welcome to share. I see you guys have written some things. Nice. I'll come back to the chat box in a moment. But the idea of wisdom is the ability to hide things in things, to hide information inside other information. And that's what we've been doing when we're talking about the letters. The letter shin hides within it its sound, which is sh, this static like sound. And then hidden in there is the idea that shin also represents electricity and fire. Of course, electricity is a very refined form of fire. And then it represents the number 300, and it's created by 3 vavs. The 3 vavs together at the base form the letter shin. So all of those are depositories of information. All right, and so wisdom is the ability to take information and fold it into other things, right? Just like a poet, he could say, I love my wife, but it's not going to be terribly original, right? He's going to try to find a way of saying it that's new and original, and that is a garment that he created for the same feeling you have when you love your wife, or vice versa, whatever it might be. So part of that skill is the creating a garment for this energy we call God. Now, each person is different and has different capacity in this matter. Okay, so we have to know ourselves. We really do. And that's work. That's where therapy comes in. A good therapist will force you or help you very much to learn who you really are. And that's not easy for some people, but it's a wonderful process. Okay. And so the final idea is that I mentioned earlier, but that each letter and each word has a program. What is the program? It's the mind intention of the idea. That when you say to somebody, I love you, you have an intention behind it. That's the program of those words. Just like I guess a computer programmer will write out strings of commands, so too language carries command with it. And that is the idea of the mental power of each word or each idea. So that if you meditate on the word in Hebrew for love, or even in English in a different level, because there are 70 secondary languages that were created from Hebrew. And that's part of the secret of what happened at the Tower of Babel, when the languages were scattered, the people were scattered because God scrambled their language. Well, everybody spoke a primordial form of Hebrew in the beginning, we're told. And when the world started coming after Avraham Avinu, especially Nimrod, who was building this Tower of Babel, God said, okay, I'll take care of these people very quickly. I won't have to kill anybody. I'll just scramble their language and everybody will go off to his own corner. And that's essentially that's why the rabbis call it the generation of the dispersion, the Dor HaFlaga. That all of a sudden people were dispersed from the Middle East, from where is today ancient Sumeria, right? Which is in Iraq. And the people started spreading out all over the globe at a certain point where they couldn't communicate anymore. And that some rabbis say that was in order to protect Abraham, because they wanted to kill him, because he, especially Nimrod, because his astrologers told her that a soul would be born that would take you out of your throne, which eventually Avraham Avinu did to Nimrod, who was king of the world. So he didn't like that too much. All right. How are we doing on time? Let's look at some notes. You can't change yourself because inside you are who you are. On the outside, you change your appearance. Well, I'm not sure I agree. I agree with the second part. You can change your appearance, but for me, when I became religious, it was definitely about change. I did not really like who I had become of 30 years of secular living. And I wanted to change that. I wanted to be the better person that I had in my mind all along. I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't have a system. I didn't have role models. It's one of the terrible things that I felt in American culture is you didn't have any role models that I really honored that I wanted to be like. Movie stars and athletes, it doesn't go along for the most part. I don't think it's going to give a child the type of role model he needs. Anyways, I wanted to change, and I knew I had to change who I was inside. The outside, and I think that I have changed a lot. If I look back at who I was when I was 19 years old or 25 years old. So that's a debate. Some people think you can't change, and there are things that we don't want to change. There are things that don't go away, things that do. And there are powers in our soul that we don't want to lose. We just want to redirect them. Like a person the rabbis say, how do you measure a soul? This is a very important general principle. You don't measure a soul by how much he knows. You measure a soul by how much he desires, how much he wants things. Whatever it is, he can want the worst thing in the world, but the greatness of a soul is a measure of its desire. And that's how you can measure. Okay. The snakes are overtaking the Everglades. There is a large bounty to exterminate them. Really? A new, oh, it's a cottage industry. Thank you, Becky. If I need some extra work, I'll jump on a plane and go land in the, what's it called over the Itchy Witchy. Oh, I used to live in, or I was raised in Orlando, so there's some funny names out there in the Everglades. Anyways, the Okefenokee Swamp, I think is the name of it, right? I think I'll pass on the snake hunting right now, but I'll pass it on to my friends who need work. That'd be interesting work during Corona times, huh? Okay. We had an anonymous donation in honor of Rabbi Nachman of Breslau. That's wonderful. Thank you, Mike. That's great. We should have many more donations to the Lighthouse. They need it. They're paying the bills, and it makes a big difference. So what about personality that doesn't go away? Okay, that's a good question, Ira. I honor that question. It is something that we really have to struggle with. But the Midrash tells us that Moses was an angry person, and we see in the Torah that Moses got angry several times at the Erev Rav, when they mocked him about hitting the rock, when they spoke bad about the land of Israel. Moses got angry a few times. So, but did Moses eventually change his anger? Yes, he rechanneled it. So it's not about saying, okay, I'm going to stop being angry. I've got to look at that fire of anger. What's it about? Why do I feel angry? Well, usually we find that the reason we get angry is because things aren't going my way, the way I think they should go. The problem with that is if you're non-believer, that's fine. I have a way that I want things to go. If it doesn't go my way, I don't like it. But when you're a believer, it doesn't work anymore. Your belief system is that there is a God who has an agenda. And if he's doing things, if I really believe that he's running the world, then what he's doing, I can't really come out straight up against him. I can ask him to change things, but I can't just say, okay, God, you made me angry. I'm going to stay angry. I don't like my dad, so, people like this, they don't like their parents, they have issues. Okay, so what does that mean? I stop being his son or his daughter? No, it means I get to change the relationship. Sometimes that might mean getting distance from the relationship. So this idea of internal change, though, it really depends on the quality. Let's say you're a person who wants to be more generous. Some people have a hard time, being generous. Okay, well, the way we do that is by giving, even when we don't want to, even when it hurts. And that, what happens is the person starts to feel the joy of giving, and it no longer becomes a difficult thing, because there is a real joy in giving things to people, because you're making other people feel better. And like, that's a good thing. You're spreading goodness in the world. In the language of the rabbis, charity creates peace. What do you mean it creates peace? Some guy's standing there in front of the store, and he's asking for a handout. Okay, here's the quarter. No, I want more. Oh, here's $1. Oh, I want more. Oh, well, you know what? I'm sorry. That's what I can give you today. Where's the peace? No, it's not so simple. When the rabbis say that giving charity makes peace, it means that when you give somebody who's poor money, or you give money to a Torah organization and it makes that organization run better, for example, what you create peace is between the receiver of the charity and their Father in heaven. How? Because if you notice, and I've noticed this, they say that most people that have to beg, which is an unpleasant word, really, even, most people that have to ask for help, they don't like doing it. And it really diminishes them, and it knocks off their self-esteem and a lot of other things. Some people get a very thick skin and they don't care. But what are we talking about here? Is the idea of creating peace through charity means the person now gets money from you. He feels better. That feeling better is reflected now in his relationship to God. He feels more at peace with God when people are giving to him. Wow, look at this works. I believe in God. I go out to the corner. I go to the synagogue. I go to the shtibelach, and I stand out there. Actually, I don't do that, but I try. I once went collecting for yeshiva in America, and I said never again. It was very hard. I felt very, it wasn't even the diminishing part. I felt very sad, but that's a personal thing. It doesn't matter. The point is when you give to people, you make them happy with God, because they say, wow, look at my good fortune. I met this guy who gave me $100. And it creates a positive feeling between them and God. That's called peace between your Father in heaven and you. Okay. Oh, it's a night of a lot of vortelach here. Becky writes, my sab went on 1. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Becky. There was a famous Rav Freifeld up in New York, I believe, years ago. Perhaps you're related in family. I think he was the head Rosh Yeshiva of what's it called? Something Berlin. Yeshiva. Anyways, small world. I don't know what you mean, Becky, by my sob went out on 1, went on, whatever. You'll explain. Shirley says, I personally am hard on myself. I find it very hard to let go of other people's criticism of me. Okay, that's a very honest, candid statement, Shirley, and I respect that. Let's think about that for a minute. When they're hearing their criticism and not letting it put me down at the same time, it is a challenge. It really is, Shirley. But there's a difference between the message and how it's given over. And most of us are not really very professional about how we give over our messages. Shirley, what's with this dress you're wearing? That doesn't make you feel too good right after you went out and bought a new dress. Or your husband says, it looks okay. No woman asks her husband how the dress looks and wants that kind of answer. Okay. There is no okay, right? But so there is the wisdom of how here's another case of this idea of putting garments on the light. The way you say things is a garment to what you're saying. And when you say things in a nice way, you're giving it a sweeter garment. And when you say things in a mean way or a sarcastic way, then you're giving it not such a nice garment. So this is one of the ways that, again, we resemble our Creator. Now, as far as the issue, wow, you got a long from Rivka. Well, I hope I get to your note, Rivka. We might be going till Nate's. Let's see. Now, I want to finish Shirley's comment about taking criticism, right? So what we need to understand is that the way the person delivers the message, that's his problem. The information itself, the pure information, might be divinely rooted. It might be exactly what you need to hear. And it could really help you. How it's said hurts often. But I have to listen. I have to try to strip away the negative garment of how it's said and just extract the essence. What are they trying to tell me? Doing what I do, I get lots of nice criticism. Some guy from Saudi Arabia today wrote me that, oh, you religious rabbis, you got these big puffy beards. And he started putting down the beard. I was like, what? You've got nothing better to do over there in Saudi Arabia to write about on Facebook about some rabbi and his fuzzy beard, I got to get my gel out, man, bring it down. But I was touched. But I was touched really, not because my beard is what it is. It is what it is. But because I felt it was just an idiotic use of time and space to make a comment about that in the context of all the rabbis, like as if that means anything. And I think it was really a veiled insult to rabbis in general. So I think that's where I was touched. But I have to, so I could take the stage instructions. Yeah, I'll smooth down the beer a little bit. I gave a class yesterday at Meron at Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's grave, and I'd been up, it had been a long day, put it that way. So my makeup guy didn't show up. What can I tell you? Okay. But I took it a little hard, and I realized, maybe it's good advice. You got to be careful, even if you're out there in the wind. And last year I gave a class in the sukkah. There was like 40-mile-an-hour wind blowing everything around. I was all over the place. What am I going to do? These beards, they get in the way. Okay. So I hope that helps, Shirley, to be able to strip away the message from its envelope. The envelope we throw away, but the essence, the tochen, as it says in Hebrew, of what is being criticized might be very valuable information. Now, if it's just hurtful or not true, blatantly not true, then it's really about the sender. That's another issue. The guy that sent me the comment about my beard, he was clean shaven, so I don't know maybe there's something there too. But we really have to the chokhmah is, the wisdom is to be able to detach ourselves from that personal level. It's not personal. Even when people try to hurt our feelings, it's not really personal because they don't even know what they're doing. They're not even in control of themselves enough to analyze the situation. And I want to hurt Shirley. I don't think most people think that way. I think they're just a loose cannon. They say things they don't even know what they're saying. There's even a level of nevuah like that. Crazy people, they say they don't know what they're saying. I could tell you stories, remind me another time. Not tonight, we'll never get to our meditation. But where crazy people say things straight from God and they have no idea what they're saying. And it carries a load of truth, usually. Okay. Rivka writes, would like to know if everyone may learn here, even if we cannot sponsor a class or give tzedakah. As far as I know, the classes are free and donations are recommended. So, no, it's really a personal choice. If they can't sponsor a class or give tzedakah at this moment, I ask this because some people, including myself, have money only for food stamps and rent. That's rough. I'm really sorry to hear that, Rivka. God should bless you with a new year of much prosperity and a job you like, because I think doing what we like is more important than how much we make. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And we're not going to talk about the bottom line here, but being a rabbi in Israel is on the lower end of the food chain, I have to tell you. It's okay. I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and I'll fight it out to the end. Now, okay, but God should bless you, and it's going to be a new year for everybody, and it has to be better because it's not going to get worse. I don't believe. I think this whole crazy situation it's for me really. Well, we're in the middle of World War III. It's the war for the heart of man. It's no longer about Nazis and Americans and Japanese and British. It's about the good and the evil, the simplest level. But I don't want to get too political. Okay. I would not want to know that Jews will be prevented from learning. Some people are thinking that the Shirim are free. Is this correct? Some people are also receiving requests for sponsorship of classes, requests for money. Continue. Just would like to understand. Well, I think the best thing you could do, Rivka, is to send an email to Reb Michael Ben Amelech, who is the creator and sponsor of the Lighthouse, and he can help you. And he has some people in the office that can also pass on information. So I think that would be the best thing for that clarification. I'm not really qualified, but we're back to the snakes. How'd that happen? Okay. The snakes. The snakes seem to come around this time of year. Of course, we're really right in the the rabbis say that the world was created on the first of Tishrei, but the first of Tishrei was actually the sixth day of the week of creation. So the calendar didn't really begin till tomorrow, which is now, because things in the Jewish world begin at night. The calendar begins at night, but all the days that we've had this week are the pre-creation of Adam and Eve stages of creation. So everything repeats itself in these endless cyclical cosmic patterns. And the snake he was created out there at these times. He's part of the creepy crawlies of Yom Revi'i, the fourth day, I believe. The snakes, the Shiratzim and Shekatzim, they're called the crawly, creepy creatures. That's when they got their chance to come out. All right. So let's see. We're getting close now. Becky writes, the snakes are filling animals. I brought up the great question that had been asked. So if someone criticizes you, is it from for Hashem? Absolutely, you have to take it that way. Before it happens, we say everybody has free choice. After something happens, we say, no, it's from Hashem. So you say, well, how can, wait a minute, a second ago, it was my free choice to say something. A second later, after I say it, now it's from God. But you have to, it sounds like an oversimplification, but really what we're saying is if you say something, it means either I didn't have the brakes not to say it, or the intelligence not to say it, or the zchut, the merit not to say it. If, for example, it hurts somebody. And we're not supposed to hurt people with speech. We're supposed to be truthful, but gentle. So that's wisdom as well. How to be gentle when you got to tell somebody they're losing their job. I mean, I'm afraid that's happening these days. Okay. Here, Mike writes for anyone, including you, Rivka, the phone number here that you can call and contact and get some guidance about this issue. You know, here in Israel, what we do is when we don't have money, we try to barter. And listen, you know, I've had people want therapy and they can't afford the therapy; it's expensive, relatively speaking. So I've had people working with me in the garden or do other things. So bartering is a legitimate thing, especially nowadays. And you might have some special skill to be worth a lot of money to people. So don't ever give up. That's the main thing. And your opportunity is just around the corner. Okay, Esther Ruth. Well, we'll see you later. I'm sorry you're not going to make it for the meditation live, but you will be able, of course, to catch it on the archives on the Facebook. Hadassah writes, every time someone criticizes me, it hurts deeply. However, I go to Hashem and open my heart to him and tell him what happens and how I'm feeling in honesty, and sometimes just cry to him. That's wonderful, Hadassah, because you're really processing the pain the way it's meant to be. That's what atonement is. You know, in the Mikdash, they take an animal, they shecht it. It's a painful moment. You raise this little baby cow, and now you got to shecht it. It's terrible. It's painful. But the pain is the payoff for the pain of something that we shouldn't have, a sin, you know, something we shouldn't have done. So in a certain way, by your going to talk to God about it and cry, automatically removes it. And saying thank you for it, that's another level. That's really a high level to be able to say thank you to Hashem for the pain. There are even rabbis in the Talmud that say lo scharam velo, right? They ask, do you want the Yissarim and you get the reward? He says no, not the Yissarim and not their schar, their payoff. I'd rather have neither. There's a famous story like that. So, but that's a very high level if you can thank Hashem for the pain. And it does take it away. You're right. Okay. I keep going down and the thing keeps popping. What's going on here? I think we're going to get ready to meditate. Criticism is a tool for growth. That's correct. Right. It's part about change is accepting the criticism, which is very mature and it's not easy. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's get comfortable. Take a break. If you need to do something, do it now. And we're going to do a little meditation. Try to bring down some positive vibrations, shall we say. So we're going to get comfortable in our chairs. Feet flat on the floor, hands not touching in our laps. Spine straight, head a little forward. Let's let the shoulders kind of sink where they will. And let's begin to breathe. Inhaling through the nostrils, also exhaling, but really letting go of everything as you exhale. Emptying out everything. The lungs process a lot of emotion because they surround the heart. So you want to let go of a lot of energy, a lot of feeling. Excess feeling causes a lot of trouble in this world, but we need the right amount. Ideally, a perfect balance. Let's keep breathing. Feeling gratitude, humility, that we have such an awesome tradition to turn to. That other people gave their lives for this information to be available to us. Continue breathing. So I'm going to ask a simple question. And I want each of you to answer to yourselves. Honestly, directly, don't think about it too much. Just hear the question and allow the answer to arise from within. And then we'll talk about it. Continue breathing. As you inhale, take in new life. Just like tomorrow night, we're taking in a new year, a new breath, new power. Easy, long breaths. We're not going to try to get anything. We're going to pray to Hashem to open our hearts, to open the mind. Each time we breathe, we extend God's kindness into the world. As we breathe, ask yourself or answer this question. Which part of my body am I most identified with? Be honest, be fearless. No one needs to know anything. Your answer should arise on its own. It's not something to think hard about. What part of me do I identify with most? Now, keep the region of that part of you in mind, because every region of the body has a Shira, a spiritual channel from God's infinite personality all the way to our finite personalities. God is the infinite amount of love and mercy and strength and truth and beauty and all the traits. And we get little portions of it. However, we're trying to increase our portions. So now as you breathe, want to channel the breath, the light of that breath. The soul rides on breath. Channel the light of that breath to the area you chose. It seems most important to you. Could be your head, could be your heart, could be anywhere. Keep breathing and see in your mind's eye the breath like a stream goes down to where you want to give over power, spiritual nourishment to. You may, of course, come out of the meditation now. What I'm going to do is give over some other ideas connected to each of your choices. But I'd like you to write these things down. It'll be useful for you in the future. Also right now, for that matter. So if you chose your head is actually created from three, consciousness is created from three different mental states. We call it wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Okay? Maybe you want to change that connection. But the right brain, the brain of wisdom, is Yah, and the left brain is Elohim Chaim, living God, and Dot, knowledge is always connected to Yud K Vav K, the emanator. If you thought of the right arm, it's Yud K Vav K with 3 dots under each letter. And the same with fourth level, the level of Gevurah, the left arm. That's the name Elohim in the simplest form. The judge, that our desire or our habit of judging is coming from there. So now, keep breathing. We come to the heart, which is also Yud K Vav K, with the special vowels. But for our purposes now, you'll use the vowels of Ah. Down to the 2 legs, you have the left thigh is Elohim Tzivaot, literally the master god of the hosts, the Ramatkal, the head general, if you will. Okay. Now we come down further to the organs of reproduction. That name is Shin Daled Yud. And that power is channeled through the idea of loyalty, especially loyalty in relationships. And the final power on the tree of life, kingship, is associated with the hands, the feet, the covenant. But essentially, it's the power of speech itself. So with all of those powers gone through, and I assume all of you pick them, understand. Like, say if you're a person who's identified with the organs of reproduction for whatever reason, and that's the psychology question though, you know that that power is now the power of loyalty, and it needs to be channeled. The only way you get loyalty is by giving loyalty. The only way you receive consistency of relationship and contact with God is by being that to other people. The same thing with kindness, the same thing with power and might and judgment. If I don't want to be judged, I cannot judge. If I don't like being criticized, I cannot criticize. And each of the parts of the body correspond to these parts of the soul. So we're just trying to create a little bit of a personal map, if you will. Some people are very head people, they're very intellectual. And so their choice of what they're attached to bring down that power, needs to correspond to the quality that's there. Okay. So I don't know if that was useful. It was a short meditation. It was designed to get us thinking in this manner of using the powers of the soul are like a template, like a filter, literally a filter between us and God, between his ultimate personality and our limited one. All right. Okay. So thank you for sharing, Cindy. What if I identify with other parts of my body not mentioned? Okay. There are more specific categories, but I try to go through the 10 Shira, which are the main powers. I don't know if we want to bring that up here. I don't know how personal. I can't really talk just to you here at the moment, Cindy, as far as, but for example, some people are really attached. I know guys that are really attached to their hair. They have these long hair and they don't want to cut it for nothing. So they become a Nazir, right? A person who doesn't cut their hair. But it's not really anything about Nazirut. It's about the idea of not wanting a haircut. It's funny, it sounds silly, but for some people it's not. They're very attached to their hair. It's part of their image. It's part of what makes them handsome, attractive to the opposite gender, et cetera, et cetera. So those are all issues that need to be looked at. However, let's see what else. We have okay. Well, that's very interesting what you write there, Cindy. I know this particular situation. In Chinese medicine, there's a lot of this type of wisdom. And Chinese medicine says that when a person's lungs are strong, for example, then their skin is healthier. So clearly there's a connection there between the uptake of oxygen through the blood, through the walls of the lungs and into the blood, and then distributed around the body. That's all connected to our cardiovascular. So it might be that in that situation, that the idea would be perhaps, sweating in order to cleanse the blood and to facilitate a smoother uptake of oxygen, so where you have beautiful skin. I'm sure you do already, but whatever. Okay. Okay. That's getting more specific, Cindy. I'm not sure we can handle that whole issue, but the lungs are definitely connected with the skin and, of course, other issues. I once took care of an asthma person who had asthma, and in my research for them, I found that people that have asthma, it's an outrageous statement, really. But the researchers found that people that have asthma were often required to take care of elderly people when they were too young to do it. Like if there's an elderly person in the family and you're just a teenager that wants to go off and have a good time as a teenager, and you're forced to take care of an elderly grandmother or something like that. That can oftentimes cause the constriction in the person's personality because they're being forced to do something they don't want to do, and it's not easy. Of course, self-sacrifice. It might create other qualities in the person, but they're still going to suffer. At least in the beginning, it depends on how they process it. Okay, so there are a lot of Torahs about the lungs in Rabbi Nachman's teachings. If you have any access to those, it would be very interesting to you. But like I said, I can't really go there tonight. I can remember off the top of my head, though, see, Rabbi Nachman had tuberculosis, which is a lung disease, and he died from this. And at the end of his life, he was giving over beautiful Torahs and coughing up blood. So let's not be too graphic, but he does talk about this issue a lot, the lungs and their health, and I'm sure you would find pertinent information over there. You can look in the indexes for specific paragraphs that deal with this. But more than that, I can't really say right now. Okay. Hi, Sharon. You say that was a very light feeling meditation? Right. It was short, and I was trying to keep it that way for this purposes that we are dealing with now. The idea is this idea of death, because we're all attached to our bodies. First of all, we have to be to stay in this world. It just depends on what part and why and how much. Okay. But if you do sprout any wings, Sharon, please let us know. We don't want to lose you. You know, you start flying, the birds might mistaken you for one of them, you know. It's also felt a lot of tingling in the crown. Yeah, I know that feeling. That could be several things. Ariel, oi, why am I the only one who never feels anything? You know? Ariel, what's your whole name? I'm gonna take a hunch.
Oh no.
Just write it in, please, if you
Can
can.
I unmute? Okay, fine. Here. It's
Well, go ahead.
Ariel Cohen. Do you need my Hebrew name too, or just the English name or the Hebrew name?
Oh, you don't have a second Hebrew name, right?
No, I don't have a second Hebrew name at all. It's just
Okay.
Ariel Ben Penina or
Okay.
Ariel Ben Akiva HaKohen.
Okay.
And
Ariel
my
is
last name is Cohen.
okay. So I'm just gonna throw you a few things that maybe they'll help open up your inner eye, your inner ability to receive. That Ariel is one of the nicknames that is given to the Beit HaMikdash, especially the Mizbeach, which is a very intense place. Obviously, sacrifices are brought there, and who works there are the Kohanim. So it's a very good link that your parents made when they named you between Ariel and Kohen. It might be that you're having a hard time relaxing.
No, usually that's not the problem at all.
No, you
It's
feel
not.
very relaxed
Yeah.
and you breathe deeply and you feel totally in tune.
Yep. At least.
But you just said you don't feel anything. Feeling in tune is a feeling.
Oh no. I'm sorry. I mean, relaxed, yes, but in tuned, no. No.
Well,
I don't feel. Yeah. I'm not in
okay, well,
tune.
it seems like you're outside, right now,
Yes, I am. I'm outside. Yes.
and you're in New York,
Yes, I am. I'm in New York. I'm in Borough Park, Brooklyn, right now.
right? So that's enough reason right there to be tense.
No.
I'm
But
trying to
I'm
be
just
lighthearted
saying
about Ariel, but listen,
that on
you
most
need
of
to
the
be in a
previous
quiet
classes.
room. Ariel, please. I'm trying to
Sorry,
help you. You want
sorry,
to be in
sorry,
a
sorry.
quiet room, a private place where nobody can get in your way or in your face. You're not out selling Trump. It's just you and God. Okay? And I'm just trying to push a few buttons on the board. Okay? But you can't expect to meditate in a truly deep way, and especially in the beginning of your practice when you're out there in the streets of Williamsburg or Borough Park, and there's action everywhere, and I think that's a good place to begin. And also, don't wear a mask when you meditate because you want clean, fresh air going into your head. Oxygen is a gift, especially nowadays. Okay, so that's also going to help you. And being off the street is a tense place. In the language of the rabbis, the street is called Reshut Rabim. It means it's the domain of the multitudes. It's a place of din, the place of your own house, your own apartment. That's where you're king. That's where you get to decide things and to keep out negative energies. But to meditate in the streets of Manhattan, you got to be a real master. I mean, people can do it, but it would never be a recommended thing because you'll attract negative energy automatically. So perhaps next time, it's a little late now, but next time try to be in a space when the class comes that you can really be alone in private and quiet. Okay. Other
Most of
things
the
that help.
yes,
What?
I I, I totally agree with you. But most of the previous classes that I've been on with you, and I've been on
Okay.
um, I
I would
have
say
been in my
also
house,
it might
that I
help
have
you.
been at home, all alone in my apartment,
Okay.
and I
All
still
alone is
never
a
felt.
very all alone might be a problem too. because you're under stress by being alone. It's not healthy to be alone.
No,
It's
no,
not
no, no.
healthy at all.
I'm just saying that in my room, in my apartment. I'm
Oh,
just
oh,
saying,
okay.
yes.
I overread that. Sorry.
Oh, no, no, no. It's okay.
Always going to the mikveh is going to help, and always even a hot shower is going to help, and a cold shower right after. All these
Yeah.
things cause the body to relax, and to create that open space. Okay,
So you said hot shower, cold shower, and
hot
mikveh.
shower and then a cold shower, and fresh clothes and maybe some nice music. I just lit some incense, some frankincense, in my incense burner here because I know the smell calms me down, and it is also very soothing.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But no,
Okay.
of course. But the thing is that um, even when I was alone in my apartment or in my room or
Yeah.
bedroom or whatever, I still never felt anything anyway. I mean,
Okay.
it didn't make a
Well,
difference to me.
I really would like to help you, but I can't devote too much time to an individual
No, no,
situation.
of course not. Of course, of
Try
course, of
these
course not.
things.
Of
Try
course.
these things before next week, and then by next week, maybe Hashem will inspire us a little bit with more understanding, and we'll see where it goes. But
Um,
you don't want to be stressed about not feeling anything. That's the counterintuitive. You're meditating. If nothing happens, so what? It's already a good thing. But by me wanting something from it, I might be short circuiting the process. You understand what I mean?
yeah.
You know, it's like if you go to see your grandmother and she loves to see you and you're happy to see her, and the minute you ask her for something, that it changes the energy. It's better just to be happy with grandma than to ask her for money and then she's going to be upset. I don't know where that came from, but it came out. So you understand what I mean, though, right?
No, no, no. Of course, of course. I love your sense of humor. Yes, it's
So,
great.
Hashem is the rabbis teach us Hashem is filling the world with spiritual life force all the time. We have to have the vessel. Now, it might be that you need a check on certain mitzvot that you keep. I can't go there with you now on that personal type of level, but you need to check what mitzvot are you keeping and not keeping, and that's going to help a lot. Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cindy, and everyone else for being there. I guess we're going to run over. It's 2:22. That's gematria rechev, or berech, or barach, blessing, right? So we should all be blessed with a holy year, a new beginning, and that sense of just feeling new. That's a high thing, Ariel. Okay, and we should all be blessed with that. And how we feel the sense of newness is go back to the beginning. Back to the beginning might be when you were 1 day old, when you were first born, or when you first looked up and recognized your parents, or you first went to synagogue. Any newness comes from going back to beginning states. Because when we go back to the beginning, we're clearing out our vessel. The ultimate level is when we didn't exist at all. Well, that's a very high level of meditation. Not everybody can do that. Okay. Shana Tova to everyone. Here, is it bad to meditate on the floor? Not necessarily, but yoga, I would not assume any posture, because crossing your legs, which normally people do when they sit on the floor, will create a cross direction of energy in your flowing through you. That's why I say you don't want the feet or the hands to touch. So sitting in a lotus, for example, is not really conducive to proper meditation. It's good for stretching, for sure. But here we're not really, this is why Jewish meditation is so much different and profound, is we want the energy to flow straight through us. We don't want to block it up or twist it or manipulate it. But so I don't, you have to decide that for yourself, Shirley, what works for you. I know this is the way a lot of people get started. I also used to sit in lotus posture back when I took yoga in college. But when I started learning Kabbalah, I said, no, this is not working. We want to keep separate. because it's a different discipline. If you look back into the ancient roots of yoga, you'll know a lot more of what I mean. And it's not those shapes and forms and postures that people take in yoga are based on ancient symbols and, well, try not to sound too pejorative, but it could be based on various, shall we say, false gods. Now, remember, there is energy in everything. But if I turn it into a god, that's my problem. And that's unfortunately what people do. I feel so high, when I see Elvis, oh, no, does anybody know who Elvis is anymore? People used to go crazy when they see Elvis or the Beatles or I don't know, anybody, Michael Jackson. That's because they raised him too high. That's idol worship. And in India, it's not Elvis or Michael Jackson. It's the river, the Ganges. It's a god. That's ridiculous. It's a river. It has energy. It has an angel on it. But they take the energy of the angel of the Ganges River and they turn it into a god. That's exactly why we're Jews and why we're commanded no false gods, no other gods. Because people will take anything that gives them a high and turn it into a god. People think pot is their god. Wow. Big deal. And by the way, people that use drugs have a hard time meditating usually because it's clogging the filter again. We need the filter to be open and clean, clear, shining, like a pure crystal. Okay. So I hope this has been useful and helpful. And if anybody has questions, they can write me at Rabbi Avraham Shira at Gmail, and I'll try to answer more specifically if it can be helpful to you, either in meditation or in health, because we were touching on that. And like I said, it should be a wonderful new year. We have 2 days to celebrate, and it is the day of judgment. But only the Jews can celebrate on the day of judgment, which is an oxymoron. It's really a contradiction. Wait, I'm going to court and I'm celebrating? No way, right? No, that's not. No, we remember that the judge is also our father. So we have inside act. We have the inside protexia, as they call it in Israel, with that father, the judge. So, and when we're happy, God is happy. He created us. So try to remember that, and we should all be blessed. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Next Thursday will be, well, I'm sure Reb Michael will keep us posted about the next class, because during the month of Tishrei, there's always a shake-up in the calendar. But we'll look forward to seeing you again. Gemar Chatima Tova, all the best, and we'll be in touch.